Let's welcome Mike DeStefano.
Hi, everybody. Just want to say it's an honor to share the stage with such amazing human beings. Thank you so much. My story is about, when I was a kid, I had a spark in me, Like I was always a happy kid. I always had a little bit of a flame going, and nothing could really knock it out. I was beaten by my father, and my mother wasn't around much, and I went to Catholic school. None of that. None of that. The nuns couldn't extinguish the flame that dwelled inside of me. They tried. I was 28 years old. I was living in West Palm Beach, Florida, and I was walking around in the Winn-Dixie supermarket, and I'm shopping, and I felt this weird feeling come over me, and then I fainted. I blacked out. Just went into a blackout. And that's happened to me before, but it was on purpose with drugs. This time, it was a little scary. I just knew something was wrong. And, I was in and out of consciousness. I did get in an ambulance. I'm in a hospital now. I'm in Palm Beach Gardens Hospital. And I'm laying there, and I got a tube in my nose, and I'm in this incredible pain, and can't really move much. And what the problem was I had pneumonia. I had double lobal pneumonia in all 5 of the lobes. There's only 4 lobes, that's why it's funny. I'm a comedian, I'm gonna tell jokes here and there. So I'm laying there, and I was just, for a minute I was really concerned about myself, which was weird because I hadn't had that experience of worrying about myself for a few years, because at home, my wife was dying of AIDS. And she was really sick, obviously, and they didn't have diagnosis for women years ago when they had AIDS. They just called it wasting syndrome. So whatever that is what she had. She didn't have a specific thing, but everything was just falling apart. And all I could think about is, I got to get out of this hospital. I got to get home and take care of her, because that's all I did, was take care of my wife. That was my life, my job. And I loved it. It wasn't a problem. I loved it. People would say, how do you deal with it? How do you ask a question like that? Like, have you ever loved somebody? It was weird to me. So I just was laying there, and the phone rings, and my friend Jimmy calls me, and he says, Mike, Franny was in a car accident. And I said, no, she can't even fucking walk. She's on so much morphine. There's no way, Why? He goes, yeah, she got in the car. And I believed it, because I knew her. She drug addict. We were former drug addicts, recovering people. So if you cut my leg off, I would be upset. But if you gave me heroin right afterwards, I'd be, I can handle it. I'll be all right, So even though she was suffering with AIDS and going through all this horrible stuff, the morphine helped her feel better. Like, she would, be okay. And I just couldn't. And she probably just thought, hey, I can drive. And she tried to. And the car flipped over, he told me, several times. And I knew she was dead, so I laid back, and I was just like, wow. And I had these Buddhist rosaries, because I'm from the Bronx. I was sort of between religions at the time, if anybody knows what I'm talking about. Well, I needed something, I couldn't, because quite honestly, my life, the drugs and the tragedy and people dying that I loved, and the most of all, my wife being so sick after being off of drugs for so long, and really us trying to get our lives together, it just seemed really unfair, And all I could think about a God was the one that I was told as a kid, God's watching, he knows. So I figured that the God who's doing this to me and my wife, I'm not going to fucking pray to him, Hey, what am I going to say? Can you help me? I'm going to say, what the fuck are you doing, It's like, get off the fence, make a move, kill us or help us, do something. So that wasn't really working for me. So I went to this Buddhist place because I saw an ad in the paper, Buddhism. So I'm like, oh, let me just see what. And it was a guy just sitting there. They just sit there, these people, and there's no nails or blood or anything. So I was like, I can do that. I probably can do that, sitting stuff there. So I walk into this place and I hear, I'm in the, they told me to take my shoes off. I don't fucking take my, I was like, from the Bronx, I take my shoes off. And then I saw everyone else had their shoes off, so I took my shoes off, and that was all they really asked, and they were just nice people, they were very sweet and kind and compassion. They had a lot of compassion. That's what they do. They try to get compassion, these people. Here we fucking call it codependency and charge you money to get rid of it. So, that's it? No one else got that one? All right. So, thank you. So, yeah. So this woman says to me, really sweet, kind, darling, she said, would you like to see the llama? So I'm thinking it's a fucking animal somewhere, like a sheep type of thing, whatever. So I said, well, what's a llama? So she said, no, it's a Tibetan priest, a holy. I said, when she said the word priest, I immediately thought of a scary priest, like a. So I go into the room and I'm like, I don't know about anyone else, but if I was in church kneeling, if my knees didn't hurt, I was in trouble. I was like, your knees have to hurt in order to be really fucking praying right, There's none of this comfort shit, you know what I mean? So I walk in there to meet this guy, and he's just sitting, he's this little man bent over, and he's like, oh, money about me, oh, money about me, oh, money about me, oh, money about me. And I'm like, what's he doing? She goes, he just prays and meditates. He's been doing that since he escaped Tibet with his family. And he just does that for 20 some odd hours a day, like 21 hours a day, and then he eats and goes to sleep for an hour. Who the fuck's paying for this, I want to know? Is this guy getting federal assistance? Are my tax dollars paying for this guy? Like, this is all I can come up with in my head. So So the woman says, well, come sit near him. And, so I actually got on my knees, like a Catholic, good Catholic. And I'm like on my knees, and she says, no, relax. And he looks at me, and he couldn't speak any English, but he said, oh, West Palm Beach, thank you. So what the fuck, West Palm Beach, thank you. So I said, what is it? She said, well, he's just letting you know that you're in West Palm Beach, and he's saying thank you for being there. It's a simple thing. So I'm like, I'm not going to go to hell or nothing if I don't sit right. So I'm sitting there, and he puts his hands out. She said, oh, put your hands out. She was excited that he put his hands out to me. She said, oh, put your hands out. So I put my hands out, and he took my hands, and when he touched me, I tell you, I felt like this fucking relaxed. I was so relaxed, And I was like, I was just there in the moment and just so relaxed. And I wasn't scared and pain. All the pain went away. And then he put his forehead out, and she said, put your forehead out. So I did the same thing. And he put his forehead against mine, and he said some Tibetan stuff. I don't know what he's blah, 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 blah. That's what he said. And all I know is I just felt really good and happy. Like, it gave me a great feeling. So I leave, and so now I'm laying in the hospital, and I got these rosaries, and I'm thinking of this man, and I'm okay. I'm holding it, and he blessed these beads for me, by the way. So every time I touched those beads, I thought of him. Whenever I saw orange or yellow, I thought of him, because that's the kind of robe he had. It was just amazing. To this day, when I see orange thing, I go, wow, I love that color. So because of him, So I leave, and I spent a few weeks there meditating and praying, and now I'm in the hospital, and the phone rings again, and it's my mother. And she said, Daddy has a brain tumor. Yeah, this is a bad day. And I just laid back, and I had the beads, and I was like, I was so overwhelmed that I wasn't feeling anything per se. It just like froze me. I don't know if anyone knows what I'm talking about. You just, like, there was no feeling. It was just, okay. And I took the beads, and I kind of threw them. I was like, fuck this. And I don't know if anybody gets this shit, but I was like, what? I've been a Christian, Catholic, angry person for 27 and years and 11 and a half months, and now I'm a Buddhist for like 3 weeks. I'm going to fuck the Buddhism. I don't want that little bit of peace, man. It just makes the rest of it seem so much shittier. Do you know what I mean? So screw this. I don't want nothing to do with this. The phone rings again. So now I'm like, okay, this is them telling me my wife's dead. Like, I know this. And it's Jimmy, and he said, Mike, I'm outside. I'm coming up. Franny's okay. Relax. I said, oh, my God, that's amazing. So I got up out of the bed, and she's actually in the emergency room of the hospital I'm in. So I have to go visit her down in this emergency room, and I got this robe on and my morphine pole and another machine that's giving me oxygen. And I said, you know what? And I took my robe off and turned it on backwards so that my balls would be hanging out. I don't know why to this day. If there's any psychologists in here, if you can talk to me afterwards, no idea. I think it was just me saying, fuck you, everyone. You know what I mean? Will you give me a break here? I'm going to visit my dying wife down in the hut. She didn't die from the flipping over the car, but she's going to die soon anyway. But I'm going to go visit her now, you know, and I got pneumonia, and who knows what the hell's going on here. So I'm like, you know what? Here's my balls. Like, I don't know what the process was, but that's what I did. So I go down, and she's in she's sitting up in the bed, and she was a pisser, and she's out cold, sitting, and she got a little cut on her lip from the accident, tiny cut, car flipped 5 times on I-95, little cut, and I woke her up. I said, honey, she goes, hey, what are you doing? She was wasted on morphine. She goes, I wanted to surprise you. I said, well, you did. And she, a couple of weeks went by, and she ended up in the hospice again. She was in hospice 2 or 3 times. Young people don't like to die, you know. Not that old people do, but some old people, you go, I had a good life. She didn't feel that way. She was pissed. She didn't want to die. She was thrown out of hospice for not dying. They put her in. They said, look, you can't stay here. You've been here for 4 months. It's for like a week, 2 weeks. You got to go home. Came back again. Yeah, 3 times it happened. Finally, this time, she died. She died. They told me she was gone. I was at home I've never stayed home. I stayed with her every night. Her mother was in town, so I took a night and stayed home, and she died that night. When they called me, there was no feeling about it, you know? And it reminded me of when my grandmother died when I was a kid. I didn't have a feeling. It was just, okay, and I froze. And I held in all of that death that I had, and because I knew my father is now got to die. And I loved we were so close, and I was like, I got to save this angst up, man. I got to hold on, you know what I mean? You can't fall apart. And so 9 months after my wife died, I was out at a movie. I came home, and there was a voicemail from my brother. Mike, pick up the phone. Mike, pick up the phone. The second time, every time I heard him say, pick up the phone, I a little more and more fear of what he was going to say. And finally, he said, Mike, I'm sorry to tell you this on the phone, but Daddy's gone. And you know, I'll never forget where I was. I was looking at my laundry machines, listening, and I literally felt my heart be ripped out of me. Like, I actually reached for it. It was the weirdest feeling. And that was it. The flame that I had as a kid, all of it gone. Because now everyone died, all at that one moment, you know? And I made arrangements to fly home the next day, and I got on the plane, and when I got on the plane, I decided that I was going to end my life. I'm pretty much done. And I wasn't telling anyone. It wasn't a threat. It was a total fucking decision that I've pretty much had enough of this. There is nothing else to live for, and I'm done. And I got on the plane, and I was so excited because I'm really going to fucking die. This is so great. Like, I was thrilled and at peace. And I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait till the funeral was over, because that's when I'm going to do it. I'm not going to jump off a building or jump in front of a car. People haven't heard of overdosing on drugs. So I'm on the plane, and I've got this decision of ending my life, and I'm at peace, and I'm happy. And all my life, God or the universe, whoever the fuck's running this thing, would always go, yeah, it's really awful now. You're almost out of hope, but here's a little something to keep you going. here's something nice to keep you going. I get up, I go to the back of the plane to go to the bathroom, and Lama Chamed, the monk that I had met, is sitting in the back row. And he sees me and he says, "Where's Palm Beach?" And I said, "You little motherfucker." And he put his hands out like he did before, again. And he put his head out and I did it's called Tonglen. And to meet a Lama, you have to have amazing karma, they say. To have a Lama actually want to do Tonglen with you, which is giving and taking. That means, give me all of your pain, and I'm going to give you all my joy. And the reason he sat for 30 years in meditation was to open his heart so that it gets as big as the ocean, so that if you pour some pain into it, it absorbs it. That's what his whole life was about. And it worked for me, that particular Tonglen. It worked. And I got home and I quit my job like Tom, and I said, I want to be a fucking comedian.